What's up? Welcome to the Coaches Meeting. Grant Cohn, the coach. Can't stop, won't stop. Rockefeller Records, because we get down, baby. We get down, baby.
Girls
love us.
Yeah. We right there. You don't know about the remix.
That was the remix with Chingy.
Yeah. Remember that?
All right, so we're talking about Kyle Shanahan today. Are the Niners taking power away from him? Mike Silver came out with a killer article today in The Athletic. He doesn't really think of it as Kyle losing power. I don't really know how you want to phrase it, but it seemed like in the past, the Yorks in particular never said no to Kyle Shanahan. And it seems like this offseason is way different. There are constraints. There are limits. How do you interpret all of this? And do you think he's losing power?
Times are changing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, you could shape it in a lot of different ways. You could say that, Kyle doesn't have final say. There's certain decisions being made outside of Kyle. They decided to make it more of a collaborative effort. You know what I mean? You can, however you want to say it, but the facts are is that. Yeah, that was my corporate voice. We're just going to try to streamline this process, make it more of a collaborative effort. We don't want to handhold the expedition here, But really. How it comes off is that these decisions ultimately come down to money. And that's what this is all about. The Yorks, the Jeds of the world, they have to own a lot of these bad contracts. These guys are getting older. They're not winning. All right. And it's getting to the position where there's some other financial endeavors that the Niners have. Well, not the Niners, but the Yorks have under their belt. They've just moved into another football club, but as far as soccer is concerned, and right now the Niners had their chance. You look at it like children, right? You get multiple kids. Hey, you know what? It's not the Niners' time anymore. You had your time. You had your window. We all got in the car and went to school and pushed you off into graduation. All right, you had your time. Now, go be a productive member of society. It's time for your little brother to get the same type of attention. And the Niners have overstayed their welcome as far as mulligans are concerned. Like, I think moving on from here on out, you're going to see a lot of, cause and effect directly when it comes to the Niners. Like, if players don't work out, they will be cut, right? Yep. There's no grace period anymore. I don't feel as though there is.
Don't you feel like there's a little bit like reacting to what the Eagles did? I mean, the Eagles had a down season. They fired a bunch of coordinators. They kind of put the head coach on notice, and they came back and won the Super Bowl. So instead of firing Kyle, they fired a bunch of coordinators. And like a big difference in the Niners and the Eagles is that the Eagles coach, say what you want about him, he just coaches. He's not involved in personnel decisions, financial decisions, play calling. He just is the head coach. And I think the Niners are looking at their team being like, you know what? Our head coach is everything. And he made some bad financial decisions last year. So why don't we just rein him in and give him one job? And we think he's really good at that one job. Only difference is the Eagles have Howie Roseman and the Niners have Parag Marathe. And maybe they're both really good with the salary cap, but I feel like Howie Roseman actually does have an eye for talent. And I don't know that Parag Marathe does. So if it's more power for Parag, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the greatest thing in the world for the Niners, but it might not be bad. Might be better than Kyle, who just spends.
Well, I see it a little differently, Grant.
Okay.
I don't look at it as them taking more off of his plate in order to elevate his skill set. I see it more as, hey, we're going to get our bang for our buck out of you. We propped you up. We paid you. You're the highest paid non-championship winning coach in sports, not just football. Okay. And we've done right by you. It's time for us to get to the business of the organization, which is making sure that we're viable. We've pushed and we've poured into your project of trying to get you to a Super Bowl. Now we're teetering on the side of malfeasance as an organization, overpaid guys, guys that continuously get hurt. We've got a $30 million a year receiver that we don't know what's going on with him, right? We've got used to be the highest paid running back in the league who's coming off of injury. And then we can go on and on with the players. I want to get to the point. Basically, what I believe is that the Niners are looking at Kyle's situation and saying, no, you're going to clean this up. We're going to fix these contracts. We're getting Parag back into the building to make sure that things move in the right direction fiscally. All right. Mm-hmm. And we're going to let you struggle. Not struggle, but your skills are going to be your shield this season, not your players. We're not going to go out and get you this ready-made roster. One thing I wanted to touch on is that you brought up the Eagles, which is apt for this discussion, but there's a couple of things that are not congruent with this scenario. The Eagles were like 1 to 2 players away from being a Super Bowl team, right? They went and got Mekhi Beckham, stuck him in there. They got some things on defense, but they didn't have the holes that we have right now, right? They're not wholesale moving off of bedrock cornerstone players like Deebo Samuel and thinking about moving on from newly signed players like a Brandon Aiyuk. I believe that the Niners, they're not regrouping. I mean, they're not reloading, they're regrouping. I believe that we're not in a championship window. Right now, we're trying to replenish the depth of our team, the youth of our team. We're trying to fiscally right ourselves. We're doging right now, Grant. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I just think that the Niners are cleaning up shop and they're putting, as long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of this team, the NFL is always going to think that he's striving for a Super Bowl. And I think for the Niners as an organization, that's enough. Let Kyle go out there and push the line. You go out there and talk championship. But we're handling the business. You deal with what we give you. And I don't blame them. They sat back and let Kyle, he had a real good time on their watch. And
I mean, $334 million last year. That's just a crazy number to end up going 6-11. And I think it's fair. I don't think it's. I saw some people on like Rob Guerrero. I saw him online today saying, this might not be so good. Parag's been in power before. Those were lean years for the Niners. Yes and no. I feel like when they ran off Harbaugh, it was really a coup for Trent Baalke, and I think he was making a lot of the decisions. But I don't know for sure. What I do think
Jet
is
wasn't
good,
comfortable with John.
Yeah, what I do feel good about though is like Kyle did have too much power. He shouldn't have been allowed to say, I don't care about all the work the scouts have done. Here's who I want to draft in round 1. Here's what I want to trade up for in round 3. I don't think that's good for the organization. I don't think it's good for the organization for him to be like, right after coming back from a freaking wedding from Christian McCaffrey being like, you know what, pay this guy. It's really important to me. Yeah. Those things, you can't have that kind of a structure in your organization. So it feels like it's becoming more professional.
As it should be. Listen. I believe, one thing that struck me, did you get a chance? Let me just ask first. Did you get a chance to read Debo's homage, like his farewell to the team?
I loved when he spelled Parag names P-R-O-G. That was great.
Yeah.
Love that. Shout out Parag.
So one thing that did stick out to me is there was a little bit of confirmation on our side of just how close we believed Kyle was with some of his players. Now, albeit this is, according to Debo, he is the player. Like, that's his boo, right? This was more of a love letter to Kyle. But one thing that it did kind of strike me as is that there cringy. I got to be honest. There were sections of that letter where even if that stuff is true, I wouldn't have shared that. Right. Like, Kyle has told me things about his life that have gone through, that he's gone through with everything. Like, we're like that close. It's like, dude, you're 28. Yeah. What are you alluding to? And why? How did you guys get so hot and heavy? Jesus, get a room.
Yeah, you're like 20 years younger than this guy. How much can you really have in common?
Yeah, and Kyle, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, the Babysitters Club? Like, I don't understand why you're swapping diary stories with your players and you're trying to get the best out of them. Like, what kind of that's...
Did you see that? I don't know if you read Mike Silver's thing, but he said he had a detail that when Debo requested a trade the first time in 2022, Kyle and John flew out to Debo and tried to like talk him out of it, and they thought that would work. and it didn't. They thought they were that tight. That Kyle could just go out there and be like, "Come on, man, come on." And
yeah, like get FaceTime with him.
Yeah.
And a lot of but you see the back end of that. The front end of that is that you get a season like 2022 out of Debo, right? Which is all world, right? He goes off. But then the back end of that is every off season. What is the same old storyline? Is Debo going to be in shape?
Yep.
Is Debo, you're right? Debo's proud of how much he's in shape. He's sending Kyle pictures. Like, bruh, it's time. I saw that.
That was the funniest thing, by the way, the sending Kyle shirtless pictures things. Like,
it was very funny.
Okay.
But
cool.
One thing that I just saw for that is I didn't, okay, Debo's gone, so this really doesn't matter as far as he's concerned. But it did ask me, like, God, do you have relationship like with that with multiple people on the team?
Yeah.
Like, and if so, even if you have a relationship remotely close to that, that's not good. Like,
no,
bro, the boss, dude. If you're gonna run a team, and you're gonna be the head coach, you got to sacrifice being on that level with the players. Like, maybe later, maybe after they're done coaching maybe you're done coaching them. But I do agree, the professionalism needs to rise. It's way too much frat boy fraternizing. Like, I'm over it. It's time for these guys to get the professional stuff locked down first and then figure out if they like each other second.
Yeah, because that stuff cost the Yorks a lot of money. I feel like they're over it too. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, hopefully it doesn't just mean that Parag makes all the decisions with the roster from now on. I don't think that's what it means. I would think this means John Lynch gets more power. Mm-hmm. That it's not just a Kyle Shanahan show, that he can just show up and be like, I want this guy.
Yeah.
Keep him. Draft him. It is what it is. I watched his tape. I know what it takes. He fits. It's like, nah, those days are over. It took so long. Yeah.
I'm glad it's over, though. Like, now they're going to have to start talking about guys in a way of what they do and what they can't do. I'm kind of over the Hallmark stories of how they fell in love with a player. I'm over that. Like, can the kid play? Is he healthy? Can he play right away? And can we get him on the field? We're older, so we got to find guys that can actually play right away. These rookies are going to play.
All right, so I got a question for you. It seems like with a new sheriff in town, it could be Parag, it could be Denis. There's new marching orders in town, and it seems like the theme of the offseason is anybody can get it. The insiders keep saying, like, look, Deebo Samuel was one, but he may not be the last, and there's really no one's safe and anything's on the table. So let's go like player for player, guys who clearly could be in consideration for being traded to save money. And I want to get your take on where you think they could go, how likely you think it is that they could go, and how necessary you think it is that they should go. Brandon Aiyuk, the guy who almost got traded last year, Kyle Shanahan stepped in at the very last minute and said, no, we're signing him.
I mean, if we're going to scale a 1 to 10 and 10 being the most, I'd say 10 on all scales. It's almost imperative for us to make sure that we move on from Debo. I mean, not Debo, but BA. They got the injuries. We already overpaid him. We saw what we came in at 22.5, got him up to 25, and still bended the knee and paid him 30. We don't know what he is, and even when he was at his healthiest, he was a fringe number one guy. On top of it is that we've kind of seen life without him, and I feel like we can move on from BA. He's not that necessary of a player to have on the field, especially for what he can do. And then we don't even know what he is after he gets paid. It's time for us to get younger, faster. Also, another thing, it's time for us to challenge Kyle. Kyle needs to be challenged with a new band of guys that does not know him, that they're there, they are on the team to perform. Like, I kind of feel like anybody who has some type of backstory with Kyle needs to go. It's time to just shake everything up, right? So, yeah, I believe on all fronts.
The Eagles don't have a contingent of players who are on the team because they're super close with Big Dom or Little Dom.
Yeah,
it's not. They don't do it like that over there.
No. It's almost kind of like,
what team does it like that other than the 49ers? What team has a clique of players that's super close with the head coach, but only a certain segment of the players, and they happen to be the guys who get the most money?
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's very weird. It's
very unbecoming
weird
of the 49ers.
It's not professional.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And the teams that see it, we look bad as an organization. It's cronyism.
Throwing money away to certain people. All right. So Brandon Aiyuk, I mean, best guess as to a team that might want him. The Patriots. We heard a lot about that.
Patriots. I would go with the Patriots that might take a stab at him. I would think the Commanders may take a stab at him. They got a lot of money. They've already gotten Debo, so that's pretty much off the table now that I'm thinking about it. Smaller teams that need receivers. I could see possibly the Colts taking a swing at Debo. I could also see, if we're looking at receivers, you may not like this, but I could see the Seahawks going at Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know if the Niners would do it or not. I don't necessarily see a lot of teams that would just be wanting to jump at him right away with disposable cash just to spend.
What about Buffalo? That's the team I like.
They're losing Amari Cooper.
That's the team I like for Aiyuk last year. It's like you have an elite quarterback. You don't like your number one weapon is Khalil Shakir, who's good, but you like need to be able to throw more. What's the point of having Josh Allen if you can't actually throw? I mean, they throw the ball among the least of any team in the league. I think that one makes sense to me. I don't know if they want to do it. I don't know if they have the money for it after paying Josh Allen.
See, the thing about it is that Buffalo may not have the money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I would say, what about Miami?
Yeah,
Vegas. Vegas needs a receiver too.
Yeah. Miami needs a receiver to replace Tyreek Hill. How about Aiyuk for Tyreek Hill straight up?
Oh my God! You know who needs a number 2 receiver?
Who?
Dallas.
Dallas
needs a number 2 receiver. I said Cleveland already. I don't know. They just let go of Christian Kirk, so I don't think that Jacksonville would get back in that. Hate to say it, but I can see KC taking a stab at BA. Being able to have a guy that can run real routes. They don't need anybody to take the top off the defense. They got Rashee Rice. And they like playing small ball. And then, there's always Pittsburgh, right? They could go back and circle the block with that. They've already got Pickens. And then Pittsburgh will circle the block and get him at cheap, right? For way less than what they were going to give up for him before when they were trying to make the deal with us in the summer last year. So I wouldn't be mad at that deal either, as well as Tennessee. So for me, I think the ideal place that I could see BA going is Dallas. You already have CeeDee Lamb there. And they need a number 2 receiver. I could see Dallas taking him.
Be interesting. Alejandro Buenrostro says Shaq Mason release thoughts potential pickup.
No. Not a
draft a guy.
Draft a guy.
You gotta draft a guard. You gotta draft a starter in round 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Dave Sims says, I got over 100 subscribers already. Thank you.
Dave.
Jewish guy says, is a pick swap with any too much for BA?
Hell yeah.
Pick swap?
Yes.
Number 4 pick?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking like a fourth round pick from New England. That's what you're getting.
4th round pick. Yeah.
Nathan Ed says, thoughts on Saleh potentially replacing Kyle Shanahan?
It's there, but I don't think it's more of a position of could we get Saleh, but I think it would be, does Saleh want us? Got to look at it that way. I think that's what it would be near the end, because Coach Saleh is he's going to be a leading head coach candidate next year in the offseason. Again, it's going to happen again. So especially if he writes the defense. So I don't know. If the Niners would do it, they would have to be like forceful, not like, hey, we kind of got an opening. I think they would have to like go straight to him. Do you think Saleh would take Kyle's job like professionally? Do you think that would be bad for him? That
feels like something he wouldn't do. That feels like he's a loyal guy. I think that'd be like Jim Tom Sula taking Jim Harbaugh's job.
Yeah.
Because I think one thing you got, like what Saleh has, is this entire Shanahan network. And if you would do something like that, maybe the network might turn its back on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there might be a lot of people that take
Eric Mangini.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Alejandro says a wide receiver core a little old if you really think about it.
It is.
Well, I mean, this might be Jennings' last season on the team. He's going to be a free agent in 2026, and if he has another 70 catch season, he could be priced out.
Definitely priced out for sure.
Yeah. All right. Let me give you another name. People talking about Joey Bosa. We'll talk about him in a minute, but Nick Bosa is like the most expensive player on the team right now. He has an option bonus that's going to cost the Yorks $29 million on April 1st. He hasn't lived up to his contract the last 2 seasons. He's been good, not great. He is a good player, and I think he does have trade value. So Brandon Aiyuk, you might get a 4th round pick. Debo, you got a 5th. Nick Bosa, could you get a 1st? Could you get a 1st plus? Would it be worth it? What do you think? Should they, could they, would they?
Yeah, I would do it. He's 27 years old right now. Okay. And honestly, he's kind of like right in that sweet spot of you could still kind of push off that he's still in the front end of his prime. Right. The biggest thing that I see with Nick is that we just got bigger fish to fry as far as actually getting another rush edge over on the other side of him. All right. We still have an entire defensive line to fill out on top of an O-line to fill out. And a lot of that has been tied up in his salary. I think that, us giving us 19 and a half sacks two years ago, yeah, that's cool. But for what he's done thus far, I just don't see it. I think that the Niners are in a position where if they're going to rip the Band-Aid off and really push forward, you can't like go in with a scalpel. Some things you're just going to have to rip right off and move on. So look, we got to move on from Nick. I don't necessarily see 30 plus. What is it? 32. I don't see $32 million a year being used viably. I don't get it. So yeah, if the nine, and then also he may have to be a casualty just from the simple fact that we blew all of those picks, which we still have to pay for the Trey Lance for the Trey Lance deal. All of those years without 1st round picks, we got to catch up. Got to get more guys, man. We're behind right now. The only thing that has kept us like in the fight right now, outside of us going to the Super Bowl last year, is name recognition. But those names are getting older, And we haven't talked about Joey, but yeah, please no.
Well, we'll get to him in a second. The thing with Nick, I think, is interesting is like if the Niners are looking at this year as like a reset year, which that's the word Lynch used, reset, recalibrate. You have $65 million in dead cap and counting. It could be 100. You're clearly going to lead the league in dead cap. You have an easy schedule, but like if it's all about putting yourself in the best position possible for 2026, I mean, I can't think of a move that would really help them more than trading Nick Bosa. Like he could get you potentially multiple 1st round picks or a 1st and a 2nd, and that could set you up to have a really good young, cost-effective team in 2026. I mean, it'd be like the Lions trading Stafford. I mean, you could get a whole lot for Nick Bosa, and I mean, as good as he is, he's not as good as multiple defensive linemen.
He is the pick, though. If you look at it, Christian McCaffrey, you're not going to really field much for him coming off injury. Same thing with Trent. I wouldn't get rid of George at all. He's coming off arguably the best year of his career, and even all-world tight end such as himself, people would still underpay us. We wouldn't get the bang for our buck, and we would lose so much not having George on the roster. Nobody on offense is really tradable outside of Brock. I think our biggest trade pieces right now would be, I'm not ready to move on from Fred Warner. Fred Warner's a cornerstone player, so you don't move on from him. It's Nick Bosa and Brock Purdy. That's it. That's the only thing that would actually move the needle and get the Niners real picks, real assets.
I mean, if they traded Bosa, they'd instantly have 2 1st round picks this year and 2 1st round picks next year. Most likely.
Okay.
Would you get a 1st this year and a 1st this? I don't know. I mean, I think what you could do is get a 1st this year and a pick that's like conditional, like a 2nd that becomes a 1st if he has 13 sacks, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a lot of a lot of teams that are like a player away that need like a Philly. They're looking for a guy. Washington again. Commanders they're looking for a guy to kind of fill out what they have on the D line. Cleveland. If they're thinking, I think Cleveland is also a great trade partner for Brock Purdy. You don't like Shador Sanders. You don't like Cam Ward. You know, you need somebody to actually kind of right the ship of your horrible quarterback choices in the past. Bringing in Brock Purdy will work with Cleveland. I said this early on in the offseason. If Deebo Samuel is gone, hang it up. Nobody's safe. If Deebo gets moved, I don't think that there's a contract on this roster that's safe. And judging off of the very hot and heavy goodbye letter that he gave to Kyle, I don't think there's anybody that can top that as far as what they mean to the team. So, yeah, I think it's a yard sale, man. Nobody's safe. And I like that. You know, we haven't won. We've been grinding away at the same team for over 5 years. And it's time for us to either move on from the team or move on from the regime. They want to keep the regime, so the team's got to go.
Well, the thing with Brock, Albert Breer was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday, and he said, Rich Eisen asked him flat out, like, is the Jason La Canfora report correct? $45 million a year initial offer. And Breer said, I think it's pretty clear that the Niners want him in the 40s, and Purdy's camp wants him to be paid in the 50s. Well, if that's the case, and they're, $5 to $10 million per year apart, that's significant. Remember, they were talking about wanting to get this done quickly. They didn't. They haven't. I think they're further apart than maybe they thought they would be. And if that's the case, and they can't get this done by the freaking draft, and the Titans or the Browns or the Giants call the Niners and ask for Purdy, and they can get Ward or Sanders, I'd be into that. I'd even be into Jalen Milroe. Jackson Dart. There are any number of any quarterback on a rookie deal. You could get two in this draft. Once upon a time, Kyle Shanahan got RG3 and Kirk Cousins in the same draft. I just want quarterbacks on rookie deals. I just want to get quarterbacks on rookie deals. You could get Jackson Dart, whomever. But yeah, I'm really not afraid of doing that. Well, I'm much more afraid of giving big bucks to a quarterback who hasn't really proven he's worth it.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on this front. I don't agree with Jalen Milroe, and I'm an Alabama fan, so I'm not.
That's okay. I'm cool being on that. You've
been doing this a lot with Jalen Milroe. You have been standing on the Jalen Milroe wagon for a while. I'm not a Jalen Milroe guy, but I wouldn't be mad at a Jackson Dart. I think that also Brady Cook out of Mizzou. I love Brady Cook. I think that he'd be awesome to come here and get on the team. Then you also have some really good guys coming in with Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. Also, Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon is another guy. So, look, right now, I've always seen Brock as a solid quarterback, as a starter, obviously a starter. But if you're moving forward, I ended off the year. I'm going to end the year off the same way I'm starting into the offseason. I'm keeping the same energy. Brock Purdy is a bridge. He's a bridge quarterback. And I think the Niners see that with offering him $45 million, if that's true. Starting out with $45 million. You don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Pay this guy generational money, all right, and then all of a sudden have to excuse it away until we finally have to get rid of him and Kyle. I think the Niners are smart. They're moving forward in the right direction. They were prisoners of the moment, especially when it comes to the season. We're going to push forward and do the best we can for Brock. And asking obvious questions during the season is kind of funny. The first thing that came to mind when I heard about the Jason La Canfora deal, the Jason La Canfora report about the $45 million, the first thing that came to mind is when Jed said that Brock Purdy is our number one quarterback. You can print that. He's the guy that's here to stay. You can print that. It's just It's so funny how the tables have turned, man. Now that we're closer to, the season, so
it's Jed, you might want to talk to your parents about that before you start making claims in public.
Yeah.
Sure
before that? Exactly.
Because you haven't done it yet. Things change.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah, you might want to pull back on that, bud, before you start making in the middle of a losing season. Before you start
calling someone bud. I do.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Listen, buddy. Yeah.
Come here,
best.
Yeah. I think we need to normalize white guy sayings. You know what I mean?
There's some good ones.
White guy, who do you think you are, pal? You're skating on thin ice. That's a good
Who do you
one.
think you're calling pal, bud?
Yeah. You got another thing coming. I like that one.
I like that one too. Do you think that the Titans would be interested in Brock Purdy? They have the number 1 pick. They could get Abdul Carter, they could get Cam Ward, or they could get Brock Purdy. That one seems rich. I mean, I don't know. It's maybe Brock's a good country singer, and maybe
let's ask the. Well, number one, he'd be a huge hit in Tennessee just for culture. But let's go ahead and get it out the way right now. Is Cam Ward better than Brock Purdy?
I think he is. I mean, it's hard to say that, right?
There's
like he's
no
a college
way.
quarterback. We've seen Brock in playoff games, but yeah, I would say Cam.
Yeah, I guess my point
and it's
is
not just
that
is like, would you rather have Cam on a rookie deal for the next 4 years or Brock Purdy and give him an extension right now?
we're answering our own question.
Yeah,
right. Because even if it's close, you don't take Brock Purdy with a deal coming. You still go get the rookie because fiscally you're in a better position. And even if Brock Purdy was better, right, you still got to look at the fact that you got to pay him. So
probably not the first pick. And then you get to Cleveland. They might want Brock, but can they afford Brock after paying Watson? I don't know if they can.
Look, man.
So if you can't get the top 2 picks, then it takes us to the Giants. The Giants are interesting because, well, the top 2 quarterbacks could be gone. Would it be worth it to trade for the number 3 pick and get Jackson Dart?
Well, they've got $45 million in cap space. Man, I really want to just lie on camera, but I can't. I'd take Jackson Dart over Brock Purdy. You don't trade the number 3 overall pick for Brock Purdy, bro. Because you know what even though this doesn't make sense,
do though is trade 3 for Purdy and 11.
All right, you know what
would be the move.
You know, this doesn't make sense at all. At all. This has no bearing on the conversation. But the moment Brock Purdy gets traded for a first round pick, him being Mr. Irrelevant is going to come up. Even though he's played in Super Bowls, even though he's gone to the playoffs, he's 3 years removed away from him being a rookie. If he gets traded for a first round pick, I know that's what I would be saying if I was on another team. Even if Brock Purdy did his thing, I'd say, dude, we traded a first round pick for Mr. Irrelevant? And the fact that still comes up about Brock is all you need to know about. I think that, I don't know, would the Niners trade Brock for a second?
I mean, no. But I think you get more than a second for Brock. He should be worth more than that. He's starting quarterback. The Giants.
I don't see
What
it.
are the Giants going to do at quarterback? Nothing. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. They're going to suck one way or another.
They're going to suck anyway.
Yeah, so what's the point? Yeah,
but look, there are some viable quarterbacks out there that have Giants written all over them, right? If you look at it, you know, all your young guys are still out there. Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. I don't believe that Sam Darnold signed his deal yet, did he? No. Zach Wilson is out there. Jacoby Brissett is out there. Marcus Mariota. Drew Lock is still out there. I said Justin Fields already, I believe. Joe Flacco is somebody who I think Joe Flacco's going to come here. Mac Jones is still out. They've got options. I don't think that going to go get Brock Purdy. And then another thing, going to get Brock Purdy would constitute that he's yours. Like, he's your guy, right? This isn't a winning team, right? I can see if they had like infrastructure around and a quarterback would change everything. Kind of like what the Rams did. They got rid of a quarterback to get a better quarterback, but they had infrastructure. The team was already there. The Giants have holes all over the place. They're not trading one of the best generational picks that you have for a guy that you already know what he can do, on top of the fact that you got to pay him. How do they float that on top of what they paid Daniel Jones? It would be almost like going right back into the Daniel Jones situation, but shorter and slower. Just being honest.
That's true. Look, I got another name for you. Look, George Kittle. Obviously, you don't want to trade him. He's your best player. He's also going to be 32. He's entering the last year of his deal, and he wanted to get an extension. And it seemed like, you know, the way the Niners would handle business in the past is he'd get his freaking extension, maybe not right away, but at the end of the offseason. Do you think he's going to get that extension? And if not, is it fair to him to keep him on a lame duck year? Like, would this be one of the guys that you like trade? I mean, I know you want him to like end his career with the 49ers, but if you're not willing to extend, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? What's going to happen with George?
George has been a company man from day one. But I think they do. George is leveraged. He's going to be 32 years old coming up. He's already 31. We got to figure out exactly what he's going to do coming off of the best year of his career. And usually, I hate to sound like skeevish, but when guys are in their 30s and they have the best year of their career, they're almost due for a down year. It just happens that way. Their body just can't recover that fast. Maybe that doesn't happen to George because we didn't go to the playoffs this year, so he has a lot of time to recover and be ready for this season. But for me, I make him play on a lame duck year. You know, right now is just not the time. And there's context with this. You could sit George down and let him know exactly why we're not coming to the table. It doesn't have to be like this stonewalled situation where he just doesn't understand what's going on. But I just think, you know, if all things being good, yes, George deserves his extension, right? I'd give him a deal that would make him a Niner for life and just go ahead and be done with it. He's earned that much, honest, in my opinion. But just it's not the time. It's not in the cards. We can't do it. So he's got to play on a lame duck year.
I don't think he's going to get the contract. That's going to be interesting to see what a disgruntled George Kittle looks like. Last year, it was all about keeping it. Trent Williams he had like 2-3 years left on his deal, and they're like, but he doesn't have any guaranteed money left, and he's upset. He's really not feeling great about it. And McCaffrey had multiple years left on his deal. I mean, it was all about keeping people happy and making sure everyone was like the coach. Now, there's going to be some unhappy people on this team this year. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this team's been too happy.
Well, look, the party's over, man. It's musical chairs. Everybody can't sit down. You know, they all rushed the Capitol and got their money. They did what they needed, but now the party's over. And signing George, extending George right now doesn't even seem fiscally possible right now for exactly what he wants. He's a $22 million cap hit coming up this year, which is nuts for a tight end. So we're in the bad years of his deal. Not to mention, we still got 3 void years with him. So, I'd play out the rest of his deal and bring him to the table next year to see what we could do. But I wouldn't give him a deal this year. He's playing on his lame duck season.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Who? Look how this is turned.
They don't save a ton of money by getting rid of Kyle Juszczyk. At the same time, if you're trying to save money, how do you justify spending $5-6 million on a guy who gets the ball once a game?
Bro, I don't know, man. I don't know, bro.
He's not even worth. You couldn't trade him. No one would want to take his contract.
Nobody. What's he making? $6 million. He's 34 years old. I mean, if this isn't a reach around deal, I don't know what is, man. You know, it's like I'm glad to get rid of these nepo babies, man. He's got to go, bruh. I'm done with him. You know, you touch the ball, like you said, you touch the ball maybe 2 to 3 times a game. I don't know how you keep making the playoffs. I mean, the Pro Bowl. But it's time to move on. If the easiest contract to cut right now is Kyle Juszczyk, it's time to move on. Right, you know what I'm saying? We can keep his wife, though. She can make us coats. But Kyle's got to go.
Those are nice coats.
Those are very nice coats.
I think she's really talented.
No shade. Mrs. Juszczyk, good. Your work is pristine. I love the work. She does a really good job on those jackets.
Who does a better job? Kyle Juszczyk in his craft.
Oh, come on. Don't do it. You know the answer. It's Mrs. Juszczyk.
To Kyle.
It's no disrespect to Kyle. Mrs. Juszczyk is the breadwinner in the Juszczyk household. She's the SME, the subject matter expert. When it comes
she's like the quarterback of the house.
And he's like the fullback.
Right. Yeah.
See how it works, though?
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Well, look, we got a couple of super chats, and then we'll get back to our topics. Does Kyle go running back in round 2 again? LOL. Yes, round 3.
Yeah.
Lamont says, no matter who we get or release, Kyle will Kyle in the end. So, Grant, have you seen the 2025 Stinger? It's fresh. No, I haven't. I'd like to check it out. Coach, can I call you Unc? LOL, love y'all.
That's what they call me at home. Yep, call me Unc. You good. I'm everybody's
says, okay, real talk. Why Kicker and Juice still here for real?
Well, okay. I'm gonna shoot Moody some bail. I'm gonna shoot him some bail. He's been hurt, man. And during all of those kicks, he was hurt on his plant leg. It's not his fault that he got drafted in round 3. I don't think he should have. We all understand that. But because he is a 3rd round pick, I think he deserves to fight for his job. We just can't get rid of him. What do you think? Do you think we should just move on from Moody?
Yeah, I think so. I think he needs a fresh start somewhere where there's not pressure. The whole thing, like being a 3rd round pick is rough. And now it's snowballed. I think they got to.
Even though they got rid of Debo?
Start. Huh?
Even though they got rid of
maybe he'll be like more confident.
Yeah. Like,
maybe he was nervous. Like, man, if I miss this, Debo's going to kick my ass. Like this.
I'm fishing.
Possible. Bosa out, not enough productivity by, says Chris Gilbody.
I'm not wrong with that. I'm not mad at that, Chris.
Adrian says trade CMC, Kittle, Trent while they're valuable. I don't know that CMC has much trade value anymore.
Or Trent.
I don't know about Trent. Dazza says, I'm all for a rebuild and trading any player, but based on how they've drafted, do we really trust this regime to be able to build a team through the draft? Well, they had a good year last year, but yeah.
I got to take, man.
Okay.
If we go O-line and trenches early, Kyle didn't pick these. These aren't Kyle's picks. If we go O-line and trenches early, I think that because they screw up the beginning of the draft. It's the scouting department that always saves us in the end with our draft. Maybe we could see what the scouting department gets to do with the full draft, right? They don't get to get pushed to the back seat. I think if they go trenches early, I believe that this is the effect of the organization kind of telling Kyle, like, yo, don't get cute. Go get linemen. Especially if we're about to go pay this kid. Go get linemen.
Yeah. James says, what do you think about trading for Sean Tucker, running back from Tampa? Man, just keep Jordan Mason, man. Or draft a running back.
I think they should, yeah. I think they should keep Jordan Mason. He's a huge get for them.
Mark wants to know if Kyle Shanahan is pouting. Hasn't heard anything from him recently. Well,
I don't know.
Still here. Yeah, I'd love to know what his take on. He's going to have to talk about the tighter purse strings at the owners' meetings. Nathan Ed says, why not clean house? Keep a leader on both offense and defense. Push the start over button. Why dink and dunk around aging players? Give Kyle Shanahan 4 years.
4 years? You just said why dink and dunk? That's a dink, dink, dunk, dunk. 4 years.
4 years. Cam, says Jared Owens. Vermilion Sports Report says, thoughts on possibly Rams winning Super Bowl Levi's. Could happen. Austin says, get rid of players a year early rather than a year late. That's true. They don't really do that anymore. Well, they did it with Debo. Well, no, they did it a year late.
No,
Anthony Lopez says Travis Hunter covers the wide receiver and cornerback spot, game ready. Yeah, he'll fall to 11, I'm pretty sure.
I don't want Travis Hunter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wouldn't take him.
At all.
No. Not at all for us. He's a talented. I'm glad that you clarified that. Okay. I would draft him, but not for us.
Let me show you something real quick.
Okay.
Little Bet US action. So
it's a cool segue.
They have a Brock Purdy special, and it's his team for week 1. It doesn't even say if not the 49ers. It just says Brock Purdy team week 1. Niners aren't even on it. So they clearly know something we don't know. It's Browns plus 500, Raiders plus 700, Giants plus 900, Titans plus 1,000. It's all the bad teams. And then the Jets and the Rams. Well, how would the Rams trade for Purdy after signing? That one doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know. I just want to throw that out there, man. Other people are thinking the way we are.
Yeah, the Browns, the Raiders, the Giants, the Titans. We didn't say the Jets. You think the Jets would?
No. Although they don't have a quarterback. And how are they going to get one? Who's their quarterback going to be next year?
Where did they pick at this year's draft? 7th?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, they picked 7th overall. Dude, they only have 8 picks. They got 8 picks this year. They got a first, a second, and only a third. They got a third from Detroit. I don't know. The Jets may do it. But you know what? All of these like middling quarterbacks that we just talked about through the draft, they're going to be around in the second round. If I'm the Jets, I pick up Jackson Dart in the second round. If Jackson Dart isn't there, go Will Howard. Work on a guy. You know, even though Will Howard had a horrible combine. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
It was
bro.
bad.
It's pretty bad.
He made Jalen Milroe look like freaking.
And Jalen Milroe looked shaky. Yeah, but he made Jalen Milroe look good. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, well, go check out BetUS. Check out their live casino games as well. They got all that kind of stuff over at BetUS. Joey Bosa, they don't have a special bet on Bosa yet. Maybe tomorrow. Everyone's connecting the dots. It seems like clearly that Joey and Bosa, Nick want to play together.
His mom even
Joey would give the Niners a discount. Do you think he would come over here and be like, you know what? It's not about money anymore. It's just about me playing football with my brother.
No. I think that they would expect special contingencies. Right now, my biggest thing with Joey Bosa is that he's just overrated. You know, I could be artful about it, but he's overrated. Right now, how old is he? You know how old he is?
29.
He's 29 years old, bro.
He's going to be 30 pretty soon.
Off his last game, he played 14 games last year. He hasn't played a full season since 2019. He played 14 games last year, 9 games the year before that, and 5 games the year before that. Last year, he only played 41.7% of the snaps. All right, and he had 5 sacks. Wow, and he's never had 12 sacks in a season. Dude, what are we... Out of respect for your show, we're making this a topic, but this is a non-starter. No way. And with these numbers, boy, you better be coming in here with a huge discount. He's never had over 12 sacks in his career.
It just seemed like the owners told the front office, like, hey, guys, we're trying to get younger, cheaper, more durable, more cost-effective. And they come in and be like, okay, we heard you. And what we want to do, given the parameters you just set, is sign Joey Bosa. It's like, what are you talking about? He misses like 45% of the games every year. He's old. He's mid,
bro. He just looks good in his pads at this stage. He's only got 3 recovered fumbles in his entire...
He looks like one of the best players in the Niners.
Yeah, he just looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. He's got 3 recovered fumbles in his entire career. He had 13 QB hits last year, this past season. He had 9 the year before that, 6 the year before that. He had 20 the year before that, averaging 2 QB hits a game. But that year he only had 10.5 sacks. Nah, dude. Come on, bro. We had better production. Yeah, we can't do that. We had better production out of Charles Omenihu and what's my boy's name? Sam. What's the dude's name? Who left us? He had the very interesting last name.
Ebucom?
African last name. Ebucom, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So it's time to move on, man. We ain't moving on. We're not touching the Joey Bosa situation.
Okay, I got one for you. How about Jonathan Allen? Jonathan Allen. The Niners almost traded Deebo Samuel for him, got a 5th-round pick instead. He's probably going to get... Did he get released already? Has he been released?
Yes, he did. He got released.
He got released.
Former first Commanders.
What do you think?
Former first-round pick. The only thing that kind of worries me about Jonathan is that he had a little bit of an issue this year because he only played 8 games. So I don't know how healthy he is. All right. Outside of that, though, outside of this past year, he is the pure definition of consistency. He played 16 games the year before. He's out of his 8 years in the league, he's played 6 years where he's played damn near the entire season. Now, one thing that I will tell you is that he's good on the interior and he's really good on sacks. My issue with him is that the run game. Now, he's not as big. He only weighs like 285 pounds. So he's going to have another road grader next to him. But I do love his consistency. I'm really shaky on bringing him over here because I don't know if he's a different player. The Washington got a lot of football out of him when they were really bad for a long time. So he's played a lot of football. I mean, juxtaposed to, we already talked about Joey Bosa only playing 41% of the snaps. Last year, for context, Jonathan Allen played 74% of the snaps. The year before that, he played 81.5% of all defensive snaps. The year before that, he was 77%. So this is a guy that's got a lot of tread that has been taken off his tires. I just want to see if, he can still play, right? Because they just flat out released him, right? But I will tell you, Jonathan Allen is he's a very underrated interior defensive lineman. And right now, he's better than Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott. I would take a stab at him. He made $22 million last year, so we would have to get him at a discount. But we'll see.
I saw a mock draft this morning that had the Niners taking Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle from Toledo. He wasn't really looked at as like a high first-round pick, but he ran a 4.95 at 310 pounds. Looks extremely athletic. I don't know. I don't know.
He's a midday. Yeah.
What do you think of him?
He's a midday day 2 pick for me. Talk about the kid out of the Toledo, Darius Alexander. One of the things about him is that, look, he's 6'4". You get it. 6'4", 300 pounds. He's going to run a 4.95. But the things about the weaknesses that I don't like him at is that his pad level is a constant battle to keep him low. Because he wants to pop up and get fast, on offensive lines, man, he may just get moved out of his gap. Speaking of that, I don't think that he necessarily stays in his gap. He pops out of his stance. He loses leverage, especially when he's fatigued, and definitely in longer drives. That's one thing about him is that, you get that pop, you get that 4.9, it doesn't last for 4 quarters. So that's something that I've seen with him is that he fades. He's also very focused on penetrating to get upfield. So I question his gap integrity. And his pass rush, it can appear random at times. I think that he gets to the point where he has so much speed, he doesn't really know what to do with it. So he gets in a position where he's kind of setting up moves, but he doesn't finish them all the time. He ends up messing up his spacing with offensive linemen, kind of not getting off half-baked moves. And often in the NFL, that's when you find yourself on the ground. And like I said, his motor runs hot and cold, depending on the situation. That's the only thing that scares me with a guy with that high of an upside. What you want to see is you want to be able to see that stuff be consistent across time. I don't see that with Darius. I see him, he's hot sometimes, and when he's hot, he looks like a world beater who makes a lot of mistakes. But when he's cold, he's not even noticeable on the field. So,
well, the thing that's interesting about the Niners situation, their run defense is a problem. We know that. But I saw a stat from Pro Football Focus that they gave up 1.5 yards before contact per attempt last season, which ranked 25th out of 32 teams. So it seems to me that the issue with the run defense is starting up front, that running backs are getting to the second level of the Niners defense too easily. And so if they're going to fix this, then they really need to think about not just pass rushers, but defensive linemen who are good against the run. And a couple of years ago, when they had the number 1 run defense in the NFL, they had Samson Ebukam, great against the run. Eric Armstead, great against the run. Now it's Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins. No.
Yeah. There's a guy that I really like that nobody's really talking about, that I think he will be somebody that I think could really help the Niners. Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, man. I'll tell you right now, Grant, this dude, he's 6'3", 330 pounds. And with with the teams that he's played with, all right, and how he's done throughout his entire career, I think that he's somebody who would do exactly what the Niners need. One thing that I will say about him is that he's played a lot of football for Ohio State. Some of his strengths right now is that I know that at 6'4", he's got raw power. He's got huge weight room strength, and it converts on tape. I mean, he throws people around. One thing about him is that he doesn't get quick up field. He stays in his gap. He's got very impressive lateral agility as well. That's one thing that I look for a defensive lineman of. Yeah, you can penetrate when it's time to go get the quarterback, but can you stay still and stay in your gap and actually move and be lightning quick inside of a phone booth? He demonstrates natural feel for reading blocks and schemes and locating the football through traffic. One thing that I will tell you is that when you get D linemen, you almost want to get the D linemen from the blue chip schools because they're the ones who see all of these different offenses week in and week out. So when they're able to show that they're a plus player, it's not as though that they're just kind of being a world beater, but they're showing dexterity through the schedule. And one thing that I will say about him is that we need more leaders on this team. I've watched about 4 games of Talik Williams. He will not shut up. He's the equivalent of Dre Greenlaw at linebacker at defensive tackle. He is the guy that needs to get calmed down after every rep. That's the guy that I wouldn't be mad if we picked him up from out of Ohio State.
I like that. All right. Lamont once again says, "Hey, Unc, is that at that same window behind you? Lynch was looking at Lance throwing from his office. LOL. And do you think Jed yells at Kyle or just talks?"
I think they talk. I think that's one of the issues is that that's all they do. They discuss. I think they do have a great relationship. Jed has talked about it ad nauseum. I think the real question is that do you ever think that Kyle yells at Jed?
That's a good question. Maybe I could
maybe.
I can see that. Anyway, I have to go work out, getting into exercise and fitness.
I'm getting into exercise and fitness.
So it's time for me to go do that. Check that off for the day. Got a 60-minute workout coming up. Looking forward to it. Coach, good stuff. Thanks for being here.
All right, brother.
See you guys.